Hi, it looks like I am live everywhere. Thank you for joining me for today's Q&A. I've had so many questions about fatty liver disease, especially in my DMs. I can't remember if there was one specifically in this Q&A question, but the last person who DM'd me, I said I would definitely talk about this this week. So I posted a comment, something like 25% of Americans are suspected to have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So I know when I was younger, probably when many of you were younger as well, when we thought of liver disease, it was mostly alcoholics. And they developed what's called cirrhosis, which is hardening of the liver, which is irreversible, and then they usually die. So it's really concerning that we have so many people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it. So that means that the liver is accumulating a lot of fat, and it's not due to alcohol. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is closely tied to metabolic syndrome. And I don't know if you remember from one of our previous videos, I talked about how 92% of Americans are metabolically unwell. So it's no surprise if 92% are metabolically unwell that so many people have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So what does that mean? That means that blood sugar is out of control, high chances of obesity, high blood pressure, usually sedentary lifestyle, and usually closely tied to diet and toxic exposures. And so those could be the same or those could be separate. And so in the diet, we're looking at things like refined carbs, crackers, cookies, cakes, pastries, pastas. All of these are refined carbohydrates that act like sugar in the body. When we eat these foods, our body treats them as sugar. But it's also associated with trans fats, which are also in cookies, cakes, pies, crackers, right? But we can buy crackers that don't have trans fats. However, whenever we heat fats, we create trans fats. And so they may say they don't have trans fats, but if they're heated, they do contain trans fats, which is very harmful for the heart, but also metabolic conditions. And then saturated fats, which are in our meats and really in our cheeses. Cheeses are mostly saturated fats, which is why if you can only give up one thing, I always say dairy. Dairy first. When I went to the School of Natural Healing, Dr. Schultz said the same thing, which is probably where I started picking it up. But he said, if you can't get a client to give up something, they have to at least give up dairy. And so that is how serious dairy is. Why? Dairy is pasteurized here in our country. And so while it could be beneficial if it's raw and has the raw enzymes, when they heat it, they destroy it. That's why when you leave dairy out on your counter, it spoils very quickly. If you feed pasteurized dairy to a newborn animal, they don't survive. They need those enzymes. So that is very inflammatory. It is very hazardous. Please try to get rid of the dairy if you can. So what else did I want to say about that? So like I said, it is associated with metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, sedentary lifestyle, and toxic exposures. So many people don't realize that they have problems with their blood sugar. What happens is we go to the doctor. If they don't run a fasting glucose, we don't know. If they do run a fasting glucose and we're like just outside of their range, they don't really say anything. It's just a wait and see kind of game. However, the problem is we start having damage to circulation, especially to the eyes and the retina before a diagnosis of diabetes. So if your doctor is playing the wait and see game, you are already experiencing some damage that can be irreversible. And so it's very important to test things like your blood sugar. It's so easy. I've done it on one of these videos recently where I tested my own blood sugar right here. You can get a really cheap glucose meter at your CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, and it doesn't cost very much at all. You need something to prick your finger. So you get the little lancets, and then you need little strips, and you need a little meter. And so it's 3 different things that you need. If you can always comment if you need me to help you figure out what you need. But what you want to do is check your blood sugar when you wake up in the morning, and then check your blood sugar every 15 minutes from the time you start eating a meal. And you don't want it to go up too high, and you don't want it to go too low. I talked about that on another video, so you can always go back there. Something else that really affects fatty liver disease is our toxic exposures. Our skin, we don't think of our skin as being an organ, but it is one of our largest organs. Think about how much space we have here. We have these pores, we have these fine hairs. The same thing is on our intestinal tract. It's just got a different coating, and it has mucus on top of it, but it's all the same material. We have the pores on the inside that absorb our nutrients. Well, anything we put on our skin gets absorbed through our skin. So it's very, very, very important that we pay attention to that. And one of the most harmful things, one of the things that I struggle with purchasing myself is shampoos, conditioners. And if you rub shampoo into your hair, you're rubbing into your scalp. When we apply essential oils, a lot of times people will apply them to the bottom of the feet, the soles of the feet, and to the scalp, because they very easily absorb whatever you're using. If you're using essential oils or something, they are absorbed really, really quickly through the scalp and through the feet. So in my herbalism courses, we learned, you apply like something to a baby's head. You make something, and you can apply it with some oil on their head or their feet, not even essential oils. It could be some sort of oil made with herbs, but the same thing is absorbed so quickly. So when you're using shampoo and conditioner or mousse, anything that you're rubbing on your scalp, getting your hair dyed, those things are very easily absorbed into our skin, especially here on the scalp. And then if your bathtub, if it's not draining straight out of bathtub, you're standing in the shower, your feet are absorbing that as well. So that is one of the key ones. The safest one I've found is Anne-Marie is $55 a bottle for the little bottle. And so that's not sustainable for me. And so I'll make my own shampoo, but then you can see I kind of get get dry. So it's hard to find something like that. We have to pay attention to soaps. When you're out shopping, you're in a restaurant, you go in and you use the bathroom and you wash your hands, and it has sometimes it has a really nice smell, sometimes it doesn't have such a great smell. Those are all those chemicals are getting absorbed into our skin. And so you want to make sure you're using the cleanest one as possible at home. I like Castile soap. That's usually what I'll make or I will buy. I do make my own as well. Castile soap bars. I like the Think Dirty app. Like you're thinking, Think Dirty. That app you can scan a barcode when you're out shopping, and it'll even give you alternatives. It'll tell you what's toxic in here, what's a known carcinogen, what's a suspected carcinogen, and you can kind of rate your products that way. But that's something else that your liver has to deal with. And if your liver sees a chemical it doesn't recognize, it's going to wrap it in mucus, stuff it, and that leads to fatty liver there, as well as the foods. If we're eating foods that are not organic, that is also pesticides, the chemicals they spray. They even spray some foods after they're finished growing to kill them back, even if they're organic. And so we have to be really careful about the foods we buy. You want to know everything you can about the foods you buy, unfortunately, if you are really concerned, if you're already sick, those kind of things. So I want to make sure that I answer the right question. Someone asked me a question about products. Do you have suggestions for liver health? I've seen tests and supplements. I've also seen 2-ounce liquid shots in a bottle that are very pricey. So when we're talking about liver health, if we're talking about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or even alcoholic fatty liver disease, if it's alcoholic, we know where we need to start. If it's non-alcoholic, for either case, we need to look at lifestyle. So number one, making sure that you're regularly exercising and moving the body. Remember, we have this lymphatic system that is our sewer system. We need that to flow. We've heard, most of us, the only time I ever hear about lymph nodes is when we hear about cancer. Cancer gets in the lymph nodes and we know, because it spreads throughout the body. Well, that is where we have a lot of cells in there that help us to fight infections and things. And the only way they move around to help us fight infections, and the only way waste are moved through the lymph system to be eliminated from the body, or if we move our body. It doesn't have a pump. Like our heart pumps our blood, But the only thing that pumps the lymph is the contraction of our muscles. And I keep pointing under here because that's where we talk about breast cancer, it goes to the armpits. We have lymph nodes in our neck, in our armpits. We have several around our belly button, inside our thighs, and some other places as well. And so we want those to move. So we need to move all of our body parts to make sure the lymph system is especially moving. But we also need to move our body for all the other reasons, keep our muscles strong, because muscles help with metabolism. And so a lot of times, especially with fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, 92% are unwell. We need to focus on building muscle strength, which also helps with bone strength, which also helps with blood sugar control. And so that is really a key factor is working on the movement as well as the food. Well, you see what I eat every day. Sometimes my blood sugar is out of whack. My blood sugar has been really wacky over the summer. Confession, my daughter, she's a high school senior this year. She made a dessert at least once every week, and she would eat one or two, and then I would eat the rest. And so I know that was a key player, but for me it was stress. So I was trying to hurry and graduate. I wanted to graduate before Dr. Reed and Marie's summit in July. And so I was getting up at 5, working at 5 a.m. until 8:39 p.m. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep because I was stressed out because I knew I needed to be back up at 5 to study or work. And so I was doing that around the clock. And I finally took half a day off last weekend. I'm no longer using an alarm clock. I haven't for 10 days. I'm back to doing my legs at the wall. And so even things like that, if you're under stress, your blood sugar is going to be out of balance. That can lead to fatty liver disease. We don't think about stress as doing something like that. So sometimes it's not just the food. I don't eat cookies, cakes, pastries, and pies. When she was making her desserts, they were still my dessert friendly. She would probably add maple syrup to something or dates to something, but I have very strict rules about that, and I don't buy sugar. So even if she had maple syrup, she knows we never put more than a third of a cup of sugar. It used to be a half a cup. Now we're down to a third of a cup of any kind of sugar. If you make a big pan of brownies, it's still not over a third of a cup. So that's something you can do when you look at recipes. If you want to make something, if you see a recipe that has more than a half a cup of added maple syrup, honey, natural sugars, then just make sure you know, I'm just going to toss that recipe out. I'm not using it, as you learn to wean yourself. So my daughter, she can't even drink a Coke because she's so used to not having sugars. So that's something that can help you and your family. So that is another thing. If you have suspect fatty liver disease, have a diagnosis of fatty liver disease, sweetened drinks are an absolute no. If you already have it or suspect it, no sweetened drinks. And be very, very wary. I would say no artificially sweetened drinks as well. We've seen in the news all the things that have been coming out about, so even the stevia sweetened drinks, are they using the natural herb stevia, or are they using stevia extracts that are highly processed? Those are dangerous. And what is the pink one? Aspartame, definitely a big no. That's a chemical that is a known carcinogen. And so we want to make sure Splenda, carcinogen. So we don't want any of those drinks, as well as the ones that have the added sugars. Think about how many children you see walking around with a soda in their hand, but they're just being set up for disaster as far as that goes. So what are some symptoms? Well, there could be none. The early stages of fatty liver disease, there are no symptoms at all. Sometimes people will start developing pain in the upper right-hand side. I don't know if my video is reversed, but it's the upper right-hand side is where my hand is. Start feeling that, or it could be a lot of abdominal bloating and fatigue. And then as it progresses, then you have experiencing weight changes. Could be weight loss, which is the opposite. In the beginning could be weight gain. How do you know if you have fatty liver disease? Blood markers. So having someone examine your blood test and going over it with you. When you see, we've heard this on some of my other videos, when you're looking at blood work, you could see the range and you see yours. And so you may see one or two markers out of range, and you ask your doctor and they're like, oh, everything's fine. But when we look at it optimally, which is what we do in the functional medicine realm, is we look at optimal markers on your lab range from wherever you got your lab work done. They compare to the general population where you are. So that is what is normal where you live. Well, remember, 92% of the people are unwell. So I don't want to be compared to the 92%, right? I want to be optimal. And so you need finer ranges, but there are liver markers in there, blood sugar markers and things like that. So all of those need to be examined. If you do have those out of range, then doctors will usually do imaging to look at your liver, or they may even do a liver biopsy to look at, to find what stage is involved. So key things, number one, you must manage your weight. Healthy weight loss through whole foods. It's not the workout more, eat less that sets your hormones up for disaster and can actually lead to weight gain, which sounds backwards. But you need to work on eating high quality foods, lots and lots of nutrients and lots of fiber, which is something that most Americans don't eat as well. And the right balance of omega-3s to omega-6 fatty acids. We hear about fish oil. It doesn't have to be fish oil. It can be algae oil if you like oils. It could be walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds. And people say, but you just told me I need to lose weight. How do I eat these things? Well, these foods come packaged with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and fiber, and they actually pass through your body without being absorbed. And the nutrients they provide to help reduce inflammation is actually more beneficial than reducing your calories. So no cookies, cakes, pastries, even bread crust and pasta. Learning to wean yourself from those. No sweetened beverages or artificially sweetened beverages. Then you asked me about the 2-ounce liquid shots in a bottle. So if you were someone who made some kind of supplement or something like this, and you see 92% of Americans are metabolically unwell, 25% of Americans have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, you would immediately come up with a product and it'd be really easy to market, right? And so you said these are really expensive. Yes, they are. Would I buy them? Absolutely not. Now, that being said, I haven't looked at this 2-ounce bottle shot, but I would go back to traditional forms of cleansing the liver. So when we look at herbals, we're looking at milk thistle. That's a very safe supplement. Medical disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I am not recommending supplements. I do not diagnose or treat. Do your own due diligence. Do your own research looking at milk thistle. Milk thistle is generally recognized as safe. Because my blood sugar has been out of balance, I've been taking milk thistle regularly as I get myself back in balance. I don't know if you've noticed, my foods have changed the last few weeks. I'm eating a very low glycemic, high fiber, very nutrient rich foods right now. I'm not eating foods that could spike my blood sugar as I restore my insulin receptors and get my blood sugar back in balance, as I work on my legs up the wall and breathing exercises and not getting up early in the morning and not working at 5 a.m. So I'm doing all the different things. You have to do all of them. I'm making sure I'm getting high quality sleep as well. So we have to do all those things to actually help the liver as well. So you send me a picture of the ingredients and I can help you better, but I would do things like turmeric tea to help with inflammation. I would do dandelion tea, which is very cleansing to the liver. The liver loves that. I would work on vitamin C rich foods, which are your raw fruits and vegetables, very high in vitamin C. Your liver needs those. Foods high in your B vitamins. Folate, think foliage, leafy greens, dark leafy greens. I like my clients to have greens 3 times a day. Now, if you've been in my Create a Healthier You program, that's what I put myself back on, right? It's when I eat that way, my blood sugar is optimal, my thyroid is optimal, my antibodies are gone, right? So why do I stray from that? I don't know. The brownies looked good, right? The cookies look good, but we have to go back to it. And so I'm doing that now. Jennifer and I we're rebranding Create a Healthier You, and it will be back in another month. So I hope that some more of you will join us when we do that. And you'll learn more about that as we get to it. But those of you who have been in Create a Healthier You, if you are feeling like you're off track, jump back in. Say something to me in that Facebook group and I'll know somebody else is going through it with me. And for those of you who have not heard about it or want to make sure that you're on the list, make sure you comment as well. So what I wanted to say about the supplements too is be cautious of these marketing ploys. People want to make a lot of money and you can't make money on dandelion or milk thistle, those basic herbs that we can grow ourselves. And so those things are much better. And anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric and ginger, those kinds of things are so easy and so much cheaper than buying something in a shot. If you have a juicer, make your own juice of whatever ingredients are in those shots, right? And then that way you know that they're nice and clean. So there's a huge population. If you're buying herbal teas, one of my favorites is traditional medicinals. That is Rosemary Gladstars. She is a herbalist that I strongly trust, and that's her company. And so someone else is running it now, but it's still her recipes. It's very clean. I did think I liked yogi tea until I started realizing it has things like natural flavors. That's a key. My number one rule for anything is read the ingredients. Anything. That's any of our face products, that's our cleansing products, that's our shampoos and our foods. If something says natural flavors or flavoring, natural doesn't mean a thing in the world. Okay. There's so many things in our environment that are natural but not healthy. So I don't trust anything that says natural. You can use the Think Dirty app, and sometimes it'll tell you more about what natural actually includes. For me, I can't eat corn, and so that's an immediately no for me, but that's something I would look at. So when you're buying supplements, if it says natural flavoring, you don't want it. If it has artificial sugars, you definitely don't want it. So that being said, I no longer use yogi tea because they say natural flavors in their yogi tea. So really, I buy loose herbs or I buy traditional medicinals. And I like to buy herbs from Mountain Rose Herbs, from Dr. Christopher's, from Holistic Botanicals. If I buy from Frontier or Star West Botanicals, I always make sure that they do say organic. I try not to buy from Amazon. Sometimes I can only get from Amazon. If you live, like we live outside Atlanta, an hour away from Atlanta. So my husband goes to Atlanta and he'll buy from a health food store up there that sells Frontier products. And so sometimes we have to do that. I know a lot of you are on the California and near LA. I'm sure that you can find some things near there. So herbs that are generally safe are your milk thistle and your dandelion. And then focusing on managing your blood sugar is key for all health conditions. If you want more help with that, then I will definitely help you with that. And then I feel like I had one more question in the Facebook group, and I don't know why I can't find it. I want to make sure that I answer your question. That one says seen by. I'm so sorry. If I did not answer your question, why do so many people have fatty liver disease? What are the causes? I think I answered that. How does a person know if they have it? How do they know if they have it? It would be as from the liver markers from your blood test or imaging. If you have any other metabolic condition, then there is a higher likelihood. And so I would focus on these other things as well. Anyway, if you have more questions, make sure you comment and let me know. Y'all know I love to hear from you. I hope that you have a fabulous week. So comment on here what else you want to hear about next week. If you want me to continue this topic next week, I am way over time. Y'all have a great week.